Okay, we're broadcasting. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody, and welcome to another Course Key webinar. We thank you to our audience members for being here with us today. We have a great presentation lined up for you. We'll be talking to Liz Prout and Ashley Kozar of Paul Mitchell, the School of St. Louis, about improving efficiency in the face of COVID-19. So before we get into our panelist introductions, I do have two quick housekeeping items that I'd like to go over. The first one is that the webinar will be recorded. So anyone who has registered for the webinar will receive a recording sent to their email later in the week. The second thing is that we have included time at the end of our webinar for a Q&A session. So to our audience members, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to have answered, definitely feel free to submit those. You can do that using the Q&A tab in your Zoom toolbar. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll get to as many as we have time for. So today we'll be talking a little bit about Course Key. So I do want to give you a brief introduction into who we are. So Course Key is a 6-year-old ed tech company, and we build a teaching and training platform specifically for career education and vocational and trade schools. So we improve compliance, retention, and efficiency. And really the reason we got started is we saw that there were teaching and training tools out there in the market, but none that were really specifically catering to the career and trade and vocational schools. So what we did is we set out to build a platform that has an emphasis on real-time attendance, because we know how important that is, and a focus on compliance, and really create a platform that accommodates the hands-on learning that happens at vocational schools. So Course Key is used in over 200 campuses across the country. You see down there, bottom right, we have 18, I think it might be more now, 18 Paul Mitchell campuses, including Paul Mitchell St. Louis, who we'll hear from today. And the last thing about Course Key that I think really sets us apart is that we integrate directly with leading LMS and SIS systems in the market, which is where a lot of the efficiency gains are seen with our clients that use our platform. So that's Course Key in a nutshell. I'm going to toss it over to our panelists to let them introduce themselves. We have Todd, and then we're going to hear from Ashley and Liz. Todd?
Hey, thank you, Alex, and good morning or afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're at. My name is Todd Northup. I am the account manager, have been working with the team at St. Louis for the past few months for the rollout of Course Key, and thought they had a good story to share with everybody that is going through similar situations. I've rolled out over 50 other Paul Mitchell campuses, as well as additional cosmetology schools. So I'm really excited to have Liz and Ashley to share their experience and hopefully give some valuable insight on what they were able to go through during this transition to a hybrid learning environment.
Perfect. Ashley and Liz, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, really quickly, I'm just warning everyone, we have construction going on next to us. So if you hear like beepings and like something's about to come through the wall, they might be, but they're literally right outside. I just heard this noise and I'm like, well, I hope that doesn't happen the whole call. But good afternoon. I am Ashley. So I am one of the financial aid leaders here at Paul Mitchell, the School of St. Louis. I've been with the school for 7 years. And my biggest focus in the school is attendance with all of our future professionals. So
I'm Liz. I'm pretty much Ashley's other half in financial aid. I've been with the school for 2 years, but I've only been in financial aid for 1. But yeah, I do a lot with attendance and making sure hours are good and all that stuff.
All right, thank you guys very much. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then we'll just focus on our beautiful faces. And Todd, you can go ahead and start with the questions.
Awesome, thank you, Alex. So first question is just, general overview question. How is the Paul Mitchell St. Louis campus doing in this new normal with the COVID pandemic and on-ground or hybrid learning or going back to campus, then having to kind of switch back and forth. What's been that experience for you?
Yeah, so we closed, I think it was actually St. Patrick's Day was the
Yep.
day that our state and city mandate went into effect with having to close down. And we took about 2 weeks to kind of come up with a game plan for distance learning. And at that time, we were using Zoom as our way to track attendance. And what that pretty much consisted of was me sitting in the office with the Zoom logs of times and calculating the time in and time out for students. And that took me about 4 hours, no joke, each day. And then we were lucky enough that FAME did start to, which is the software platform that we use, did start to incorporate a way to convert that. So it did help. But there were a lot of challenges with punches and things like that that just weren't really jiving with how we do business here. We did get to open back up officially the beginning of June. And right now we have 130 enrolled in the program. We currently right now have 4 different schedules, and each program, well, I should say program that has a different schedule. And within that, they have 1 day of distance learning that we are allowed to offer them per our state board at this time.
All right, perfect. And then focusing on efficiency, when you were first contacted, we first contacted you,
Yes.
we know that St. Louis had a few pain points that you were trying to resolve with what you just described right there. Attendance inefficiency and issues with online attendance. And just starting with the first one, that attendance inefficiency, you explained the attendance process that you were doing before Course Key, but now once you have Course Key as a solution, what's that process look like today and how does it differ?
I'm going to let Liz take this one over because she's the one that downloads the clock every day. So I will let you talk a little bit about that.
So it's really, really easy. They have an app that they can sign in every day. We have little QR codes that they scan every day, twice a day, usually. But you just click a couple buttons and boom, there it is. Like it's really simple. Before, like we had, before COVID, we had time clocks that they had to touch every day. And with COVID, we don't want that with the high touch points and everything. So moving to the QR codes where they scan with their own phone, they don't have to touch anything, has been really easy. There really hasn't been any challenges IT-wise, with like computer-wise. There's no scanning issues. It's more of them remembering to. So there's no issues with like the back end or anything. So it's been really, really, really simple.
And I'll kind of jump in with that. So like Liz had touched on, prior to using Course Key, we used a vascular system. So it took a picture essentially of their veins in the top of their hand. And what we were finding is a lot of students nowadays, they always have this in their hand, their phone, their iPad, with everything being digitalized from textbooks and things of that nature. So what would happen is a student, 9 times out of 10, if they were missing a punch, it was that out punch. Mm-hmm. And on our end, we would have to then go in and verify. We have a system in place that they are able to turn in what's called a missing time form for us to go in on the back end and check roll sheets and time clock and things of that nature, appointment list to prove out punches. And what was happening is a lot of times we weren't able to prove out that end punch at the end of the day. And so students were losing out on hours just because of user error for not clocking out. Now with Course Key, what's beautiful about it too is it is Geofence. So they have to be on campus in order to clock in and out. And we were able to set that up based off of our campus location. So it kind of alleviates the ability to like, hey, I'm here in the building, but my bestie's down at Starbucks getting that afternoon pick me up. I'm going to, send her the code to clock out so she can get her Frappuccino and then jump in her car and head home. So it's alleviated a little bit of issues with what people would classify as cheating the time clock. We are also, since were printing off QR codes, able to have more access points for them to clock in and out. Those vascular systems were very, very expensive. And so we were only able to have so many locations. And so because of that, with social distancing, we were having a lot of lines, backups of people trying to clock out. So to adhere to the social distancing that we are under, it really provided us an ability to go from having 3 to now we have, I think, 6 points throughout the school that they're able to clock in and out. And it's just made it more efficient for them. Liz, probably prior to using CourseKey, when she would do missing time forms on a weekly basis, was upwards of probably 40 to 50. Now I'd say probably on a week, it's about maybe 10 to 20.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So it's eliminated her workload and her ability to focus on other things that are a little more important than a student forgetting to do a clock in and out punch. You know what I mean?
Great. No, that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. And now when you were, so we contacted you, I believe, for CourseKey, but I'm assuming you were looking at other systems out there. What other systems were you looking at, and what made you decide on CourseKey?
I will be honest, I think you guys were the only ones that we looked into. One of our owners is a NACAS commissioner, and you guys they raved about you guys from a NACAS standpoint, as well as our corporate office. So we were kind of a one-stop shop. We didn't really shop around. Todd, you had what we wanted, and we said, let's do it. So we didn't have to go anywhere else for that.
And then I know your goal was with implementing CourseKey to alleviate the manual process, the safety, the health concern of using the wrist scanner. Were there any other goals that you were hoping to achieve with the CourseKey platform?
So one thing that we have not implemented, just because of staffing and a lot of our staff on LOAs and stuff, is we eventually will use it for roll. And then we are in the game plan brainstorming of using it for testing with our theory chapters, as well as like our state board testing prep. But we just haven't got to that step yet, just because of life happening, so to speak. But that is long-term goals, what we would like to utilize it for.
Well, perfect.
To alleviate paper, everything being digitalized will be so much better, and that's more efficient. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's the ultimate goal, right? And then as far as the implementation process, how long did it take, and describe that process for you, how it impacted your ability to get up and running?
Yeah, so it was pretty easy. We really just had to do the training, and I will say, I'll speak for myself on this. I was one of those people, and probably Todd was like so frustrated with me, because he'd be like, it's in the training, and I'm like, Todd, I just need a person. So I think sometimes what was great about it is like the accessibility of you to help us through that.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty quick and seamless process. It did not take us that long to get up and running.
No.
And to get the kids on board and stuff like that with it. I'd probably say maybe it was, the slow part was the users, to get our training and stuff done. Once we got that part done, to get up and going, I mean, we were up and going by the time we picked the date.
Yeah.
I'd probably say within a week.
That's what I was gonna
So
say.
it was very, very fast, and we're fully supported by the CourseKey, by Todd, who's, I don't know if he thinks that we're best friends, but we kind of think that over here. But it was pretty easy.
Awesome. Glad to hear. And no, I'm glad that I was able to help you guys get up and running really fast. So as far as the implementation process, we've talked about that. Post-implementation, like what are some of the ahas or discoveries you had that has helped you now with making just that overall experience seamless for those new students coming in?
So one thing that we do, I wish I had a picture of it. So we color coded everything. So we have 5, right? Yeah,
We
five.
have
5. I'm losing it. Sorry, I just had a moment. We have 5 different QR codes that we post daily in those 6 locations. We color coded everything that way. And we do our groups by a letter. So we have A through E. So that way, if I know that I'm letter A, when I go up to the QR code, I'm looking for the pink sheet, and it's simple for me to scan in and out. Sorry, I'm having a contact issue over here. So we color coded everything. We also have a user key. around for them to know.
If they forget or they're new, they're not too sure which group they're in.
Yeah, we in our orientations, sorry, I'm like having the biggest contact issue of my life right now. Okay, of course I would be. We do an orientation with each class that starts, and I get them signed up in it. We put them into Course-Key, and then during that orientation, I download the app with them. I walk them through exactly how to do the wellness check. I walk them through exactly how to clock in and out. We add all of their courses to their device with them. So we are pretty hands-on with them with it. And then we touch base with them throughout to make sure there's no issues. But yeah, probably I would say color coding has really helped. That way on the wall, it's not just 5 white QR codes. It kind of stands out to them. I would say is probably one of the biggest things that I hate to say it, but like you got to keep it simple for them. You know, their minds, you know, go in 20 different directions. So if they know that they're pink and they scan pink every day, there's no questions asked that that's what they should be scanning.
All right, that's interesting. I'm gonna talk to our dev team about maybe a future enhancement. Can they color code the courses?
Yeah, we just print them on paper though, so it's really not.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just printing it on. So I have 5 different colors of paper, and when I go to print for the week, I print all the A's on pink, all the B's on purple, C's on yellow, and so on and so forth.
Got it. Okay, that's pretty.
Yeah, so I think the QR code being black is good, as far as like
That's
for printer purposes. But yeah, we just used colored paper. I guess I should have specified. I apologize.
Okay. And then, so we talked about ground attendance, and you're using the GPS plus the QR code, and that's working well. So the online attendance, which you mentioned earlier, they do 1 day a week. Can you talk a bit about just that adoption of online courses and some of the issues you came across during that time?
Yeah. So a lot of times too with Zoom, you get kicked in and out depending on your internet access. And we have a lot of students that live in rural, in the middle of nowhere, cornfields, and sometimes their internet might be spotty. If they are clocked in on Course-Key, I don't have to then look at a Zoom call and think to myself, okay, they have literally 20 in and outs when they're just clocked in on Course-Key. We do have there are a couple so for the online, we use the thumbprint or the face recognition. Mm-hmm. There are a couple who have to type in the code every day. And we do utilize Google Classroom. So per whatever group then they're in, we type that code in each day for them to use. So it's also helped with disruption throughout the Zoom call, because what the educators were finding, especially in the chat, they would be freaking out about their hours. Like, hey, I keep getting kicked out. Is this going to count against my attendance? And that type of stuff, and really distracting from the lecture or whatever is happening. Now they kind of know, hey, if I'm logged on Course-Key and my instructor can see me on Zoom, like that I'm having issues, like I'm good. And then if it is a situation where someone's logged in, but they're not on the Zoom call, the educator has the ability to then clock them out. Where on Zoom, if you remove someone from the call, it blocks them. So then they can't get back in or get into further instruction without you going in and kind of doing a loophole situation to get them unblocked, if that makes sense.
Got it. Okay. And do you feel Course-Key's helped you? You said it helped you address those problems where they can then give them the alphanumeric code. So it's putting that responsibility back on the student, but allowing them also to be able to check in and check out.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Then as far as so we've talked about the student, how about from the faculty and staff? How did they respond to the implementation of the Course-Key platform?
So that would be our distance education leaders. I think it's made it more efficient too for them, because they're able to look up and pull up the live attendance and kind of take roll that way, rather than having to sit there and take roll, on a Zoom call and have everyone unmute themselves and say here or whatever. So it's made it a little bit more of taken a little bit of pressure off them, made it a little bit more effective for them to just start their instruction rather than having to take 20 to 30 minutes trying to get everyone to focus and take roll.
All right, perfect. And then in regards to the students, did they respond pretty well to the new tracking system?
They love it.
They do. They really do.
It's because I think too, a lot of them, like we have a lot of student body that have to work. Totally get it. When I was in school, I had to work too. So they're not waiting in a line and waiting, for slow pokes in front of them to figure out, or maybe the vascular system isn't reading someone's hand and they're having issues. They can, and it's literally, you just hold your phone up and it's like, boom, you're out, in or out.
Barely even a
So
second.
it gets them out of here and on to what they need to, rather than holding up a line.
Great. I'm glad that they're able to see that savings
Yeah.
as well. And then bringing it back to efficiency, then the St. Louis campus, what have you seen the most time savings in so far?
I'd probably say in me and Liz's office. Our office, we're able to focus on more things rather than having to edit pending punches from Fame. You know what I mean? And doing missing time forms.
yeah.
I mean, most of our time when we would do missing time forms, that could take us almost half a
I'd say
day.
it took me most of the morning on a Friday.
Yeah, on a
just to do
Friday,
them
just
all.
to do them, just to like kind of basically do detective work and try to prove out that someone was here. You know what I mean? And now if we do, let's say, because we do still have to edit some, it's not nearly as much as it was in Korsky, but we're able to type a note. So that way, when that student pulls up Korsky, it will say, did not punch out for the end of the day. And they know, okay, I need to go see Liz and Ashley, or I need to fill out a missing time form. I forgot to clock out at the end of the day. So it kind of gives them the more ability to hold themselves accountable,
Mhm.
which makes us not have to do that. So it kind of takes a little bit of that burden off of our office of kind of having to.
So they're coming to you versus you having to go to them.
Correct.
Yep.
hmm
Okay.
They know right away rather than like a week later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hear
Yeah.
you. And then has Korsky helped improve the accuracy of that student data collection? Do you feel?
Yes.
Yep. Completely.
I don't know.
Or that, I mean,
I don't
it's
know.
just yes.
Yeah, that's just a pretty simple yes or no question for me. But yeah, because there's no questions about it.
Okay.
It's real time. Like if they clock in at 9:02, it's 9:02. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then again, they can see that and they're not trying to say, hey, the time clock was wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Before we would hear that all the time. It's saying I'm 3 minutes late, but I swear I clocked in at 9 o'clock. Well,
And now they have the ability.
now
in
they
their
have the
app
ability to see that, like, hey, I got here late today. So it's making them more responsible. I've noticed a lot of them are more on top of it and actually like caring about their attendance,
taking more
responsibility for it, rather than when I pull them in, if they were to fail a SAP or something and they're like, what do you mean I failed a SAP? And I'm like, well, you're late every single day. Like, let's pull up your course key. You know what I mean? Like type thing. So they see it every day, real time. And so it's not like a shock when I have to go in and have those coachings of attendance. They already know.
That's excellent. Now, have you guys experienced any improvement in the compliance section using Korsky? You mentioned the owner also is on the NACAS board. What about other compliance? Have you seen an improvement there?
Yeah, so just with our state board too. So we get audited by state board twice a year. They come in and they look at roll sheets and stuff like that. So this is I feel a lot better about showing them this than I would if a print off of an Excel spreadsheet from a Zoom log.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Plus two, I mean, if I were to give that to a student or a parent, if they were ever wanting to know why someone's attendance was off, you look at that and you have no idea what that says.
It's like a foreign language.
It's like almost like, yeah, like Liz said, a foreign language, where I can go in and I can pull up all of their punches from Korsky and show them. You know what I mean? So it's way more compliant than the previous route we were going, which granted, we were doing the best we could at the time. I mean, everyone was, you know what I mean? I think everyone was probably in that same boat.
Yeah.
But this is a whole lot better to show an auditor from either accrediting agency, state board, Department of Education, anything like that, than it would be to hand them a Zoom report.
And have you been approved for continued blended learning, or have you applied for full-time blended learning?
So through our state board, we are able to do it till the end of the year for right now. We are looking into applying. We have not quite done that yet, because just with time allotment and stuff like that, it would totally be approved, no problem. We just are trying to figure out how many hours and things like that, and just kind of game planning what 2021 looks like for us. We just haven't done that yet.
All right, perfect. And then as far as the, so I'm switching away from attendance, right? So you also have the health check utilized through Course Key. Can you describe just that touch-free, secure COVID health safety health check and that detailed documentation and how that has helped and changed?
Yeah. So I handle all wellness checks in the school, myself and Christine, my other coworker. So before, it was seriously like a flip of a coin between her and I, like rock, paper, scissors, who was going to have to ask 100, like, or not 100, but about 80 to 90 students and staff each day, the questions that we had. And we could probably say them in our sleep now because we said them so much, but it's so much better now. Like and it also too, like, especially those students that come in and they like are coming like minute to win it. It's 8:59 and they got to clock in a minute. I'm not holding them up from clocking in. They come in and we're like, hey, let's see your pass. They show us their pass. It's given us the ability to connect with them too, more so I can talk to them, hey, what'd you bring for lunch today? Instead of, have you been to Wisconsin? Have you been to, like, you know what I mean? Going through my list of questions.
Yeah.
So it's made that so much more effective too. Then because what we were happening is we were asking those questions in person. So when we would have someone that answered yes to that, me and Christina would look at each other like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Where's the hazmat suits? Like, what are we supposed to do? You know what I mean? And now they all do it before they come in. They get the red pass, they're emailing me. So then I'm able to, one, if they do in fact end up testing positive, I don't contaminate the other students and the staff and anyone in the school to that. It's just like, I don't know, it's just great.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's so nice too, because I know what days the questions get implemented. So we make sure if we need to do any updates, we send in a ticket now.
Yeah.
And the kids just, they appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to do that based off Geofence. They could wake up and eat their breakfast and
it.
answer the questions, which is why they would get a red pass before they even came in. So it's nice. It's great.
Especially for those who have to drive like an hour in. They don't have to waste that trip all the way in here. They know before they even leave the house whether they can actually attend school or not.
Yep.
Awesome. And then, yeah, you touched upon, so you're in one of the states where the last question is, you know, what other states have you been visiting? As we know, the CDC is changing their guidelines every day.
Yep.
How has that experience been good with the ability to customize those questions?
Yeah, so we do it we update them on a weekly basis. So we check the CDC tracker for the red states for the past 7 days, and we update that on Fridays.
Got it. Okay. And then how about like student retention? Have you seen any improvement with retention now that attendance data is real time and the students have that, they're getting more comfortable with the blended learning?
I think maybe a little bit. I feel like their attendance has gone up. They are definitely more in attendance.
I would say from a retention standpoint, I would kind of tie that into SAPs.
Yeah.
Because they're able to see their attendance real time and kind of know what things are looking like. We're not having as many failed SAPs, which in turn helps with retention because, you know, if they're failing multiple SAPs and then they're getting released from the program. So I would say it has helped to that extent, but other than that, I'm not really sure how to answer that or what I could relate that to.
The fact that it's helping with the SAPs and they're able to see that before the SAPs become due and, you know, they're able to correct things. And then are there any other areas of operations seen improvements in Course Key that maybe you haven't discussed already? Some unexpected benefits?
The zinger, and I know you shared these questions with us beforehand, but I don't know if I have an answer for that one. I think our goal for next year is to go officially paperless. So I think when we're able to implement roll sheets, that's going to be huge. I think I know that you guys hopefully, and I'm not trying to call you out on this call, eventually get it where the grades go automatically into Freedom. I think will help with efficiency. I know you guys are working hard on that.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that because I think that will help big time as far as efficiency for the school, rather than someone sitting in there inputting grades. But yeah, I think roll sheets are really going to help because, you know, you have binders all around the school. And again, from a compliance standpoint, if everything is digitalized, I think it will make the school operate more seamlessly as well as being way more compliant.
Excellent. No, we're actually, I don't mean to call my dev team out either, but really the end of Q4, beginning of Q1 is all about the beauty and cosmetology user experience, both from a student standpoint and from the faculty standpoint. So I'm excited about some things that are coming. So, as you know, you'll be kept in the loop on those.
Absolutely.
So I guess just an open, like looking ahead, you said St. Louis is looking, eventually they want to roll out the education content, maybe look at worksheet, digitizing those for record cards,
Yep.
Importing those grades in. Anything else that you're looking ahead to?
No, we have, we just got some moving parts as far as like shifting of leadership in the building. So that's pretty much probably the biggest rock we have would be that to kind of, we like to kind of do one thing at a time and then think to the next bite.
Okay, fair enough. All right, that's all the questions I had.
Cool.
Alex, do you want to do a summation?
Yeah, so thanks, Todd, for the questions, and thanks, Ashley and Liz, for your answers. So to our audience, we are going to transition now into our Q&A session. So we did have a few come through. The first one that we're going to toss over to Ashley and Liz, this is a bit of a longer one, so bear with me for a sec. So it says, are your learning leaders adjusting missed punches daily at the end of class? Did I hear it correctly that if they miss a punch, you don't give them the time in course key and then adjust it once per week if they have filled out the missing time punch form in Fame and Freedom? And then when do you import course key into Fame and Freedom, daily or weekly?
Okay.
So yes, at the end of the week, at the end of every day, they don't adjust the time. At the end of it, or the beginning of every day, I go in and I see like if they maybe missed a punch, or if they maybe have too many punches, I kind of adjust it based accordingly. And yeah, if they don't have two sequential punches, like maybe they only have one at the beginning of the day and they don't have one at the end of the day, they don't get their time for the day and they do have to fill out a missing time form, and I do those once a week. And it's pretty easy to go in course key and verify those other punches that they do have. And we utilize other means to figure out, if they were here or not. But yeah, it's a once a week thing usually that we do. And then every morning I go into course key. When I fix the time, I download the whole.
Let me kind of jump in
Yeah.
really quickly. So there, we made the decision at our campus to not give the ability to our learning leaders to make those adjustments. We only do it in our office. Myself and Liz are the only two that have access to that. Again, from a compliance standpoint, if you have too many hands in the cookie jar, there's no way to know who's doing what. There's a report that you would run every morning that would show you essentially similarly to the Fame edit pending punches. A student would be flagged if they either have an overlapping time punch or if they don't have a sequence. So that's your indication then to go in and make that adjustment and type that note in. And we download the clock every single morning and post attendance. And then like Liz was saying, per our missing time form policy, we do those weekly. And a student has 5 days from the date of the missing time to turn that form in for us to verify. Past that, they do not get the time.
All right, perfect. And then for the, just out of clarification, for the student maybe didn't clock out, do you give them a minute or do you just remove that time? And then
we remove it completely. So we remove it and we put did not punch out. In our catalog, they have to have an in and out punch in order to get the time. So if they only clocked in, I don't give them anything because I can't prove it out from a compliance standpoint.
Yeah, and I've seen other, and it all depends on state laws too. So Dallas, they don't allow that as well. The instructors to make adjustments, even though the system allows them to, they only admins or above can make adjustments. And then I've seen other accounts where they will give them a minute, and then that's the flag within Freedom that then identifies whether they missed their out punch.
Yeah.
Thanks for describing that.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So the second question that we have here is in regards to the geofence. It
Okay.
says, can you explain exactly what the geofence is and how that is set up?
Todd, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so for ground courses where it's on campus, we have a combined technology where we combine a GPS fence that we can place around their campus, meaning that as long as the student is within that geofence, what they call, at that GPS location, and they scan a QR code that changes every day, they'll be able to check in and check out. So it's a dual authentication to ensure that, as Ashley was stating, they don't send that QR code down to the street to their friend at Starbucks who left early so they could scan it. So they physically have to be present on campus to do that.
And I'll add too, we had to play around with it at first because we had to make it a little bit bigger and kind of move it per our campus because one of our locations where our QR codes wasn't within it. And so when the student would try to scan it, it would say location not found. So it does tell them if they aren't within it that they can't clock out. So it's
pretty accurate.
It's pretty accurate.
Okay, thank you for that. To our audience, this is the last question that's been submitted. So before I ask it, just want to give you one more chance to submit any questions or comments that you have for our panelists. So the last one that we have here is, what if a student forgets their phone or it runs out of battery?
Okay. So we have two options. One, they all have iPads. So they do have the app on both their iPad and their phone. In the event that that student doesn't have either of them or their phone is dead, we have the ability in our office to punch someone in and out. So we would just have them then come report to our office at the time that they leave, or if we are not here, they would sign out at our front desk and we would adjust that accordingly the next day. And then our service desk initials to confirm that that's the time of departure that that student left. But we don't run into that too often. I'll tell you, if these kids' phones are not charged, they're like knocking, and I'm like, hey, what's up? They're like, do you have a phone charger? And I'm like, no, because I'll never get it back. Go try somewhere else. But yeah, trust me, they always have their phones, and it may have 1,000 cracks on it, but they're still TikToking and sending all the things to their friends. I'm like, how do you read this thing?
Yep, I gotcha. Okay, thanks. So that was indeed the last question that we had from our audience. Thank you to our audience members for submitting those, and thanks Ashley and Liz for your answers. Real quick, I'm going to reshare my screen. We'll present this here. So this will conclude our webinar. I want to give a big thank you to Ashley Kozar and Liz Prout for taking the time to take us through your experience and discuss how CourseKey has helped you improve efficiency at Paul Mitchell St. Louis. And thanks as well to Todd Northup for really going through all the questions and kind of guiding our webinar today. So to our audience members, if you're interested, we would love to take you through a walkthrough of our CourseKey platform and really talk to you about how we can help your school achieve its goals, whether it's through efficiency, compliance, or retention as well. So after the webinar, there will be a post-webinar survey that'll pop up. It's a quick three to four question survey. If you're interested in a demo, you can leave your information there, or feel free to contact me, Alex Weitzel, at alex@CourseKey.com. So that's it. Thank you very much, Ashley. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Todd.
Guys,
Bye.
Thank you. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
Have a great day, everybody.